Warmer temperatures over time are changing the weather patterns and, of course, disrupting the usual balance of nature. Well, this poses a huge risk to human beings. This is all over the world, and all forms of life on Earth. And therefore, this morning we discuss climatic changes. We discuss global warming. We get to understand the difference between these two, the similarities on these two, the problems that come along with this that has hugely been reported for the longest of time, that we have global leaders sitting on different forums just trying to address the question of climatic change as well as global warming. Just how are these two affecting us today, and are there forms that can be incorporated to make adjustments? Otherwise, the guru on the question of climate here will tell you that we are doing badly. And I think for the longest of time I have hosted him, and he continues to just speak of the worry that lies therein. But I am glad that in all this he says that there's some essence of hope, even if it's going to take forever. And so we are delighted to have Daniel Wanjuki, who is the CEO of Ecosave, joining us this morning for this conversation on just what climatic changes would mean for the global fraternity, as well as the question of global warming. Thank you so much for creating time to be with us. First of all, say hi. Tell us something small about Ecosave as we get into this conversation.
Thank you, Lina, for hosting me today. My name is Daniel Wanjuki. I'm the CEO of Ecosave Africa. I'm a lead expert, mandated to do environmental consultancy. And what I've come to experience throughout my career life is that every year the world seems to be warmer than the previous. I would say that it is scaring that we have not had rains this year, and that we keep on hoping that the rains come. But every day when I wake up, I look at the skies, and like Jesus said, you can tell when the rains are going to rain because the clouds come from the east. But what do you see? We see clouds come. We see them gather in the skies, but they disperse. So it's actually that I normally say that the rains didn't delay. They came, but we didn't give them conditions for them to actually land on our land. And
I'm keen to know what conditions we're talking about. The last time we had you here, we all thought that, well, Wanjuki is just saying it. When you were saying that the rains are actually not going to come if we're not careful. We are used to a June, July season where there's a bit of rain. It's actually raining all through. It's been cold, yes, extremely cold. It's been cloudy, it's been dark. There's always been that feeling that, we have the nimbus clouds and it appears like it would rain the next minute. But if it rains, it's only for about, say, 30 minutes max, and it's not the kind of rain that we are used to. Just what is happening?
It's true. When you talk about climate change is an observation of a period of time.
Yes.
But global warming is an overnight thing. Yesterday, it was this number of degrees above the normal. Tomorrow it's higher than that, and what this does is that it prevents condensation to happen. Clouds form, but they don't condense to form rainfall because of the warmth. And we told that when the sun rays come to strike the ground, when they are diffracted, they have a lower wavelength than when they hit the ground. And as they are disappearing out into the universe, dissipating, the light being dissipated out, when they meet the global warming gases, which we will discuss, the global warming gases tend to diffract the light or heat back to the ground and create an environment that is not conducive for cloud to condense and form rain. It may sound like it's very difficult to put your mind around it, but just imagine your car. When you park your vehicle or you enter a vehicle during the day, it is very warm. Light from the sun comes through the windscreen, hits your upholstery, the vehicle upholstery, it's absorbed and there is heat absorbed into the vehicle. But when the light wants to get out of the vehicle and the sun rays actually carry the heat, they hit the windscreen and they are deflected back to the the vehicle.
Yeah.
That's why your vehicle can have a temperature of 39, 40, 45 during the day. The same happens
To the
to the world.
yeah.
Light coming in through the day, at night, after it's done its absorption through the soil, trees, buildings, when the light wants to go, needs to be deflected back to the universe for the world to maintain its zero energy balance, that does not happen. Instead, that heat is deflected back and it creates an atmosphere that has a higher temperature than normal. We would have expected now with very low temperatures here on the ground that the clouds are going to form. But observing what happens in the morning when clouds started to form and they almost return into rain, then something happens and they disperse and you don't see the clouds forming rainfall. That is what has been happening and it is being repeated. We may not know that the world is actually warming up, but when you listen to Europe, Spain, France, UK, they have been having heat waves. We're in the same world.
Can we relate that to the natural disasters that we always see, the wildfires? All of a sudden we have these catastrophes that really are rendering nations, to levels where they really cannot manage anymore. There's always fear that today, in this particular region, in Haiti and all places, these catastrophes then would get nations into their knees. How can we relate, climate changes, global warming to such?
What we are observing, whether it's in Europe, whether it's the wildfires that we've been witnessing in Europe, in the Americas, in Australia, it's all about global warming. Higher temperatures dry the grass much faster and the fire can spread faster. That's why wildfires in the forest are becoming a norm. So it's actually part of the global warming scenario. And it is not limited to any one country. Because while Spain and Italy are experiencing heat waves, Russia and other more temperate areas where there are these ice caps, the snow is melting and coming down in torrents of rainfall that is, we witnessed last year, Germany experiencing flooding in a town where the river has never risen above 1 meter, but now flooding happens because the ice is melting and flowing down the river valleys in a torrent like we experience here in Africa. When it rains, we normally have a flooding season of about 1 or 2 weeks, and after that, it's dry. Instead of rain being discharged, water being discharged to the river slowly, we get torrents, and that's what is now characteristic of global warming. Heavy rainfall within a very short time, 15 minutes, you get your whole month budget of rain. And because the ground cannot absorb it, all of it goes down in the river as flooding, carrying all our topsoils with it. Our regular rainfall, where it rains on almost every day of the week, is the best scenario where you'd get the soil, the forest absorbing the water and releasing that water slowly throughout the year.
How then can we get to detect whether this then is some essence of climate change, global warming, like you say, extreme temperatures, perhaps rain, that is short-lived, but it's quite heavy. What things that would get us understanding that, there's some activity of climate change that is ongoing? Because you started by saying that we might not know, but it is there and it's happening.
One thing that is very clear is the lack of water. Shortage of water across the world is linked to global temperatures. If dams can't hold water because there's too much evaporation, that means there's no water even for irrigation. If your farm cannot hold moisture because of the high temperatures, it means crops are not going to grow. So water is the greatest indicator, the best indicator of global warming or climate change. Think of any scenario you had in your childhood where there was water flowing. Today that river may not be flowing. So think of lakes where the water was actually reaching the shoreline, and the farmers would actually get water, so the neighboring land getting silted and getting plenty of water during flooding. Today there is no flooding. Towns like Nakuru used to have the lake would extend closer to the settlement and go recede back. Now that is not happening. We have noticed, I heard yesterday a news item where they say that Lake Chala in Taita Taveta has dropped almost 30 meters. Yeah. For a lake to drop 30 meters in terms of the water volume, it means really you have, it's drying. Yeah. And so lack of moisture or water leads to lack of crops. Crops don't perform very well, and so we have poor harvest. This year we don't have rain-fed agriculture. It's not happening. Most of the areas maize has dried. People are being forced to change from maize growing to cassava growing, sorghum, green grams, because this may take short. For example, cassava is not affected by drought. When it comes to green grams, it's a 3-week crop. You either harvest the leaves if there's no more rainfall coming, or you wait for the green grams to form, and you can harvest. So that's how serious the climate change issue has become. And then we've been feeding ourselves from Narok County, Trans Nzoia, with grains, maize and wheat. But currently there's crops coming from there. We're actually depending on Ukraine to feed our population. And this informs. The best example is when the maize flour goes to at 200 shillings, it is something. There's a problem.
Okay, a lot of research conducted around this, policies set up around this. With the likes of NASA, we have seen how instrumental they have been in this. You want to tell me that all these reports that they present, factual reports, reports that are tangible enough to help us, make necessary adjustments towards arresting these, cases of climatic changes or global warming that are, coming up very rapid. I mean, why is it that we really do not get to address the same if so much money, so much energy, time, resources would be put towards studying this, coming up with research reports that would help us address, the same?
It's good that you've pointed that there's a lot of body of data that has been amassed over a period of time.
Yes.
We know the world has been getting warmer every year since 1992. Yeah. And there's evidence that that is happening. But our policymakers have been sitting pretty with not much input into data into our policy. When you look at the manifestos of our different parties, sorry for going political, but all of them failed to address the climate change issue. We may talk about smart agriculture, but it is not anchored on anything. We've treated the environment as if it's a pillar to our development. Yeah. It means a pillar is when you have this table having 4 legs, one is a pillar. And so you actually, when you say that the environment is a pillar, it means you can even remove and the table can stand on 3 legs. But the actual fact is that the environment is the foundation on which anything stands, whether it is social development, whether it is political development, whether it is economic development. All of them should consider the environment as a foundation on which we build on. But we actually, even in our Vision 2030, considered environment as a pillar. It means you can take it away and the country will not be very stable, but it can stand. Okay. But the fact is, and that's one of the failures of that policy, the Vision 2030, is that the foundation on which we build on is the environment. Without food, we can't even advance politics, because like now, the last few weeks, politics has been about unga, meaning that when you don't grow food on our environment, we actually lose out on anything political. We lose out anything economic. Society is actually breaking apart because we saw someone crying when she saw the price of maize flour. So it is cutting across, but we have regarded the environment as just one of the pillars. That's one of the failures of our policies. Our international bodies like the UN has also not been very helpful in translating this data into actionable activities, because why is Kenya abandoning farming, wheat farming in Narok, yet countries like Ukraine are actually trying to improve on the agriculture to be able to feed us? Have we not gotten the push to actually make sure that we are fed ourselves before we go to other forms of development? We have abandoned livestock agriculture. In Kajiado, animals have been dying of drought. Yet, we also say that in Northeastern, we have a lot of madenge tree, which is a weed, which needs to be removed from the rivers. And so why wouldn't the government match the extraction of madenge tree, Prosopis gyriflora, in Northeastern, convert it into hay or feedstock for animals in Kajiado and bring it over and maintain livelihoods? So our thinking and our policymakers actually sleep on their job, and they end up taking us with them.
As they sleep some more, what will be the long-term then effects of this?
It is certain that we are going to lose a lot of crops. A lot of animal species are going to plant and animal species are going to be lost. An increase of 2 to 3 degrees, which happens here in Kenya, because while we talk about 1 degree increase in the world, it is an average. And like they say, mathematicians say, if you have your head in the fridge and your feet in the oven, your average temperature could be okay. But is it really okay for us? No. For Africa, we bear the biggest burden of climate change. And unless we address that, we handle it not as, because in Europe they could get extra air conditioner for their houses. But us here in Africa, we will be roasting. We have to take action and make sure that the whole of any land that is available should be growing with crops like our food crop. Any food crop that we do in Garissa, Wajir, should be grown there to augment in the country's food basket, and also ensure that animals like cattle, camel don't die as we watch, because we tend to hope that it is going to get better next year. But last year, I remember you going to the Savo and seeing what was happening. It's not changed much. I've been there last about Taveta last 2 weeks. It is not any better. But what hits our headlines? If you look at headlines, they talk about other things.
Totally different things.
Totally different things. When we talk about improving agriculture, irrigation, we have now a lot of water coming from Tana River ending up into the ocean. That water should, major projects like we did the expressway, we could do a similar project where we divert that water back into the northeastern. Because this actually, it's not there's no territorial dispute about where the river, Athi River or Sabaki or Tana River. We could divert it back and allow it to be used for growth of horticultural crops. And that way, we will mitigate the climate change. Again, that's why I will talk about UN not being very serious on this issue, because Africa, Kenya is a very tiny part of Africa. But the whole of Africa could save the world from climate change.
And therefore, the world finds itself in this space because of negligence, you think?
Yeah. There's negligence and sitting pretty, like they say, the frog that was in a boiling water pan, and slowly every other small increase in temperature was bearable until the water started boiling. And it was too late for the frog to jump out.
Is it too late for us to address this?
No, it's not too late. Actually, we only need to put our act together, stop depending on the north, the European, the west, that's what we call it, in trying to make us live better in this world. We should plant trees like we have no other business. The country should focus on crops that can give us food. Like this, the avocado craze. Everybody is going for avocado. But it's being done in Central where you cut tree to plant an avocado. Why not plant avocados in Kitui? And irrigate them because they require water. Irrigate them with the Tana River water. Do a major aqueduct from Sagana instead of allowing it to go down to Masinga and down. Let it divert, let it go, allow Mount Kenya. We have to engineer the world for us to survive. Otherwise, it's not easy.
You see, we have agreed in unison that out of the reports that have been presented, it has taken us a while, some years and years to get to these levels where we are, and the levels then have come with notable damages. If we are to say that it's not too late to make a reverse, just approximately how long would that take us to get to where it is that we were, and perhaps do things differently, set different policies that would get us to a state where we say now we have better climate conditions, better weather conditions, and therefore the world or the environment is well taken care of to take care of us tomorrow?
Thank you. That question is very nice because you're actually asking what's the way out?
Yeah.
And the way out...
And how soon?
The way out today is first of all to put food on everybody's table. And that cannot be done by us depending on Europe to give us maize or wheat. It requires us to go to the Buddha irrigation scheme, the Garana irrigation scheme. We go to this and Wajir. Wajir actually sits on a water table. That's less than 3 meters deep. Grow crops there, plant as much as possible of the avocado, the macadamia, or whatever it is, bananas, whatever it is that the country can now use to feed ourselves.
And therefore this means we can still handle the same in isolation, that we do not have to wait for conferences and workshops that speak about how the world is going to come together to address global warming and climatic change. We can start at our very own level and in isolation.
Yes, exactly. In fact, I would say those conferences are time wasters. Our technicians, our technical teams are actually very busy writing abstracts for the presentation in COP27 in Egypt.
Yeah.
But this should rather be in somewhere deep in the desert, trying to change the effects of climate change. We don't need to have another conference to tell us, well, you need to handle methane gas. We actually talked about methane gas last year, and there is nothing done to actually mitigate methane gas. Because I would have expected someone to already have come up with a way of mitigating. We are hoping that we will get technologies that can handle methane gas. While still we actually have solutions for mitigation of methane gas, nobody is addressing that one. They are looking for an equipment they could bring in from whatever, sell it to us at a very expensive price, and help us to reduce carbon dioxide in the environment. Yet, what we need is trees.
Wow.
Or if we did plant trees and plant them like this, no other business. You can see how many people, how many posters politicians have done for their political campaigns. If those were trees, I can tell you the country would actually achieve the 10% or 15% tree cover, and at the cost of a poster.
Wow.
But we are not doing that because we're hoping someone will go through this first, then come and advise us on how to get out of it. All
right, Daniel Wanjuki, we still have more to speak about, and therefore allow us to take a quick short break. We come back and expound it further.
Okay.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying,
disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. And this subject that we discussed this morning is quite intense. There's so much that you can connect to it, including our livelihoods, including, just how we handle life and how we handle the environment around us. Something as, having meat and dairy products, can be connected to just how then the climate change is happening in the country. And some of these questions we would want to ask the specialist on set, that is Daniel Wanjuki, the CEO of Ecosave Africa. But then again, we will touch on what it is that we can manage. He says the situation is ugly, but the good thing is that there's that beam of hope that in as much as the world is struggling with the climatic changes that we witness today, as well as global warming, that then again translate to giving us a terrible environment, we still have hope that something can be done to reverse the same. You speak of gases that, is very instrumental. We get to understand this when we talk about the carbon dioxide, when we talk about so much so that is happening, and the emission of the same, and how then they translate to the changes that we witness in the changes of the climate. We speak of greenhouse gas, the concentration of the same, sequestration, which is pretty much common. What are these ones, and how do we run away from them?
Thank you. Through our development in the last 200 years, we learned how to extract coal,
yes,
massive extraction of coal, and petroleum oil, and these two are the greatest contributor to greenhouse gases. We have there's a craze of people going electric, but you'll be surprised that although you have this electricity clean as it looks, the producer who feeds into this actually uses coal. So it's a zero game, because already coal is being coal or carbon dioxide or petroleum is being used to generate energy, and then we say we are green. That's why I'm saying our policies seem not to really identify the real causes and the mitigation measures. We have also, in the last few years, in the last about 120 years, because of what we call hygiene, sanitation, we tended to move our waste together and pile it up in toilets for communities, schools, institutions, where that waste is being managed in one small place, which actually leads to the generation of methane gas. Methane gas, which we have discussed in the past, has no value to any animal or plant. Yeah. It's not absorbed by any animal or plant. And so we actually, when you're talking about waste environmental management and climate change, methane gas is 26 to 36 times more dangerous than carbon dioxide. As I've talked about coal and petroleum, but if you could grow crops across the world, in our savanna, our Sahara Desert, and anything in between, we can absorb the carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide actually goes into making trees that we see, and it can actually be firewood, and so that is a good way to absorb carbon dioxide. But then we have methane gas, which I talked. It's dangerous because it's produced not for any good purpose, because it's in a compost site, it is in a dump site, it is in a piggery, it is in a cattle shed. That gas produced either due to decomposition or through ruminants. These are cattle that regurgitate their what they chew, and so in the process they release methane gas. That is one of the biggest challenge the world is facing, methane gas. But when you look at the stories around, it is not given the priority. People will say, oh, I've gone vegan. That is, I only eat vegetables, I don't eat cattle, I don't take beef. But you don't stop your jirani, from your neighbor, from taking the same. Okay. So you have not stopped anything. You could have removed yourself from the methane producing equation, but the rest of the world is going on as normal. We have sewer lines, like the treatment plant at Ruai, generating a lot of methane gas because the design does not allow air to percolate into the waste and allow it to decompose aerobically. And that's why we came up with a product that actually takes out that equation, the methane from waste. And you've seen a lot of accolades given, but has the country, Kenya, as a government, have they really looked at that as a potential measure for climate change? No, it's a one-man battle, and it's very discouraging. Okay. When we talk about reducing methane gas from the environment, it would require that if there's a solution for that, every household, not here in Kenya, everywhere in the world, they adopt that technology that would reduce methane gas from being released to the environment. Like I said, maybe for our listeners, let's explain why the gases, why the gases cause this. How the gases are causing us the climate change. Molecules like methane gas form a web or a bouncing castle, on which light from the Earth trying to escape into the universe hit on that bouncing castle, and I'm using the chain of molecules of carbon dioxide and methane gas as a bouncing castle. And the diffraction back to the Earth at night is what is causing global warming. This is an overnight thing. Yesterday's heat did not go out. Today's heat is still accumulating. So, and it is that which causes a rise in climate, a rise in the global temperatures. Overnight. Just, it's not about what happened last year. It's last night.
That very night.
Yeah, that's what creates global warming. And the global warming is just like you put more clothes to keep yourself warm. So the kind of the Earth is keeping itself warmer. But it also means that rain cannot condense. Rain clouds cannot condense to form rainfall. And so that's where we need to address. If we can be able to absorb carbon dioxide by planting more trees, because anything you see in a tree is actually carbon dioxide. What you see by your vision. That tree trunk, the leaves, the fruits, the avocado, the cereals we eat, that's carbon. So grow as much crops, even if you have an excess and you have to store it. That reduces the carbon dioxide in the environment.
Levels in the environment.
Then look for a way of stopping methane gas from being released. Then you asked how long we need to have done this. Since independence, we adopted what was good, cash crop farming, monoculture. We cleared the forest to plant coffee and tea. And we didn't take too much care on what would happen to that budget that was being absorbed by trees in the forest. And instead of us advancing our agriculture towards the driest areas, we actually concentrated towards the forest. So we actually cut trees to plant cash crops. When you come now to how quick we can turn this around, we need to plant trees in the abadeas, cover it with as much trees. Every inch of that forest should be covered with the trees. Actually, the abadeas is about 35% bare land with no trees. Some of the trees were burnt down around 1980. There was several forest fires, and we never replanted. Think of Masai Land, the whole of Kajiado, Narok. Or the kind of farming that was happening before, where pastoralists wanted as much grass as possible, they would actually burn forests to get more grass growing in their area. We need to replant, change the farming.
With the rapid growth of industrialization as well, how do we get to create a balance so that, yes, we'll have these trees being planted, we still have activities of industrialization, taking place in the country, of course, growth of population that equally is in connection to this, and still create that balance?
For sure, companies like that, those that do paper, don't need to go to the forest to get trees.
Yeah.
They could grow their own trees outside. We could go and extract the water hyacinth from the Lake Victoria. Yeah. We could grow hemp in northeastern. This is not there.
Do you subscribe?
No. You
don't?
I don't, but we have vegetation that can grow. The mavenga tree.
Yes.
We are bastardizing it and looking at way of extracting it from the forest, from the rivers. It should be a cash crop.
Okay.
Feed it into our Wembuye paper mill, and from that get more value out of it. We should actually create more waterways where we can grow more of that kind of vegetation. And that's why I'm saying Tana River should not be allowed to go to the ocean as if we didn't require that water. We should actually divert it back. Projects that are just make it impossible for the water to get to the ocean.
Yeah.
As much as possible, use it for growing crops, fruits, feed the world. The whole world can actually, we can feed the whole world with avocado from northeastern. But what do we have? A few camel herds grazing over thousands of kilometers square, and we are happy with that.
It could be a one-man show, and you say that, individually, this is what I'm going to do to the environment or for the environment to preserve it. But then again, it goes beyond that, and there's that need to have a conglomeration of, great minds, of leaderships, coming together to make sure that this is addressed. So who is responsible to make sure that they set these proper policies, prescribe particular, ways that we can respond and create solutions to the climatic changes that we witness today as we come to a close, sir?
Our governments, not just Kenya.
Yes.
Because, like I said, Kenya is less than 1% of the world landmass. So anything that happens, if you had the pimple on your face, that would be the impact that Kenya would have if it was about to do something.
Yes.
But the Sahara. And it's good because COP27 will be in Egypt.
Egypt, yeah.
And Egypt has used their land mass to grow crops for their people, in spite of the land being the desert. Let's learn from how industrialized countries like Libya converted a very big portion of their land into green belt. Let's look at that as a way of mitigating climate change. Let it not be statistics we can read during national days where you say we have a tree cover. When I see between Nairobi and Mombasa, I've not seen a new tree forest being put up. All I know is that Mtito Ande is not a forest.
Unfortunately.
It's called a forest, but it's not forest. There's no forest. As we go down, you find the baobab tree is becoming scarce and more scarce. We should actually make sure that every other place there is growing with that tree that actually absorbs a lot of carbon dioxide. When I talk about Laikipia, which is my home county, a river goes to the north and it disappears somewhere in the desert. We should plant as much vegetation around that marshland so that we can start now extracting trees and feeding into our industries.
Okay.
So it is action that will require to be taken and is serious, and I have not seen that in our manifestos. I have not seen that from the UN UNEP program, but it should be a serious thing. Yeah. Actually, it requires a serious intervention, and products like would reduce the methane gas from the environment.
Like this,
like EcoTreat,
briefly,
would actually really help the world in absorbing, in eliminating the methane equation from our waste, and also ensuring that if there is methane to be produced, that it be used in schools for cooking, let them not cut trees to cook in their kitchen, let them use methane gas from the human waste generated in the school. If you go to animal farms like where we have cattle, rearing, the whole of Maasai land, every homestead should have a biogas generator. And if there's no way of using that biogas, it should actually be harnessed and transported to industries for use in cultivation. And then there is the technology in waste management which eliminates the anaerobic phase, that is the methane forming step, and they replace it with an aerobic, that is with air breakdown, which actually removes the methane from being formed. And that's the technology that Ecosave Africa has championed. And the world needs to wake up to that. It is a very, very advanced step in waste management that needs to be adopted. I know the government has not looked at it with the seriousness, in spite of them being actually awarding us for the technology. But they are still going out there to look for solutions, and they are still solutions in the country.
Well, we keep talking. That's the beauty of it all, and that's why we say asante sana for always heeding to our call. I mean, we do not relent. There's no retreat, no surrender until then such is adapted for the betterment of the environment that will then serve us tomorrow. Asante sana, Daniel Wanjuki, for speaking to us this morning. Daniel Wanjuki is the CEO of Ecosave Africa. We close this conversation right here, but not into